Good morning, everyone. So today we're learning a new lesson on greatest common factor, or GCF. When we talk about greatest common factor in class, we will use the acronym GCF. Okay, so it's important to remember that GCF stands for greatest common factor. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and start. So what a factor is numbers that we can multiply together to get another number. Every number has two numbers that we can multiply to get that number. Now, I know that's a little wordy, but I'm going to go ahead and show you how we identify factors of a number. Okay? So, for 7, there is only one set of factors for 7, and that is 1 and 7. Okay? Then we're going to identify all the factors of 10. Now, we can write this a little bit differently. I'm going to show you one way that we can write it in order to keep it organized, okay? So the first ones that we're going to use always is 1 and the number itself, okay? But we could also multiply 2 times 5 to get 10. So that means 2 and 5 are also factors of 10, okay? You could just put like a slash between them so I know. Now we need to identify all the factors of 20. So always start with 1 and the number itself, okay? Then you can count through, count numbers. So 1, 1 times 20 is 20. 2 does 2 fit into 20? Yes, it does. 2 times 10 gets us 20. Does 3 fit into 20 evenly? No. Does 4 fit into 20 evenly? Yes, and that's 4 times 5, okay? Does 6? No. Does 7? No. 8? No. 9, no, and then you get to 10. So at 10, you can stop because we already have 10 in the list, okay? So we are going to go ahead and go on to now identifying the factors of 50. So like I always said, 1 and the number itself, so in this case, 1 times 50. And then does 2 fit into 50 evenly? Yes, it does. 2 times 25. Does 3 fit into 50 evenly? No. Does 4? No. Does 5? Yes. 5 times 10 gets us to 50. And then you could keep going until you get to 10. Does 6 fit into 50 evenly? No. 7? No. 8? No. 9? No. 10? Of course. Okay? Now we're going to go on to 72. Now there's a lot of them here, so we got to pay attention a little bit. Does 1 always 1 and the number itself? Now, does 2 fit into 72 evenly? Yes, it does, and that's 2 times 36. Another way you can find if a number fits into it evenly is dividing. So if you don't know if 2 fits into 72 evenly, you can go ahead and type 72 divided by 2 on your calculator. And if a whole number comes out, so that means no decimal or no fraction, if a whole number comes out, then it is divisible and it is a factor. Okay? Then I'm going to say does 3 fit into 72 evenly? And it does, and it's 3 and 24. And then I'm going to do 4, and it does actually, so 4 and 18. 4 times 18 gives me 72. Okay? Sorry, I don't know why that happened. Then I'm going to go ahead and go 5. No, I know 5 doesn't because 72 doesn't end in a 5 or a 0. Then I say 6. And I say, oh yeah, I know 6 does. 6 times 12 gets me 72. Then I go to 7. I know that 7 doesn't fit into 72. Then I go to 8. And I say, oh yeah, 8 times 9 gets me 72. Now does 10? No. Does 11? No. And then 12. So you got back to the highest number of the multiple. So you could stop there. Okay? So that's all the factors of 72. Then we're going to go on to a negative 35. Now this one's a little different because there is a negative number here. Okay? So what's important to realize is that when you have a number times with a negative, either number could be negative. So you have to be careful. So I'm going to show you guys here. So I know that immediately 1 and negative 35 gets me negative 35. But here, we have to also flip the negative. So a negative 1 and a positive 35 can also get me a negative 35. Okay, so those are the factors. But there's also two more sets because we have to use our negative. And we know that -5 times a +7 gets me a -35, but also vice versa. So a +5 and a -7 gets me -35. Okay, so that's how we factor something. So a factor is numbers that we can multiply in order to get another number. It's also if we take the number that we're given, so here, and we divide those numbers, we are able to find our factors. So if these numbers are divisible by something, those are factors as well. Okay? Now we're going to go on and look a little bit more at greatest common factor. Okay? So here, the greatest common factor, or the GCF, is always, this is important, that's why it's underlined, is the highest number that divides evenly into 2 or more numbers. Okay? The highest number that divides evenly into 2 or more numbers. So here is just another little thing. When we make a list of factors of a couple numbers, the largest that they have in common is the GCF. Okay? So we're going to do a few examples. I am going to use a Venn diagram because I think that works easiest. Okay? So what you're going to do on the Venn diagram is you're going to put 4 on the top and you're going to put 6 on the top. Now what you're going to do is just like we did on the top, you're going to tell me the factors of 4. So I know immediately that 1 times 4 are factors of 4. But I also know that 2 times 2 is factors of 4. I know that that's it, okay? So now I'm going to go on the other side and I'm going to do 6. So immediately I know 1 times 6 are factors. But I also know that 3 times 2 is a factor. Now when we have these lists, we want to look for the greatest number that they have in common. They have 1 in common, right? 1 and 1 are on both sides. But they also have a 2 in common. And here, that is the highest number that they have in common. So what you would do is you would put a 2 in the middle, and we would say that the greatest common factor of 4 and 6 is 2. Okay? So that's where we are. That's how we're going to use the Venn diagram. Okay? I'm going to go on to the next page for some more examples. All right. So now we have, what you can do always is put your numbers up on top. Okay? 24 and the other side is 6. Then always start with whatever's on the left. So I know, here we go, 1 and 24 are factors. Can 2 fit into 24? Yes, it's 2 and 12. Can 3 fit into 24? Yes, it's 3 and 8. Can 4 fit into 24? Yes, it's 4 and 6. Can 5? No, and then we got back to 6, so we know that that's good. So those are all the factors of 24. Now we're going to come on the other side, and we're going to say 6. So we know 1 and 6, and from the last page, we know that it's 3 and 2. Okay? So what you can do here is you can write all the numbers they have in common in the middle. So we know that they have 1 in common. We know we're going to look for 2. We know they have 2 in common. We know that there is a 3 in common. And lastly, we know I'm going to do that in a different color. We know that they have 3 in common. And lastly, we know that they have 6 in common. So now we're going to look in this middle part here and say which is the largest number that they have in common. In this case, 6 is. So the greatest common factor of 24 and 6 is 6. Okay? Now we're going to go on to number 9. Okay? And we are going to write on top 48 and 64. Then we're going to write down our factors of 48. So right off the bat, we know that 1 and 48 are factors. Then we can go to is 48 divisible by 2, or does 2 fit into 48 evenly? Yes, and that's 2 times 24. Then I say, oh, does 3 fit into 48 evenly? So in your calculator, you could say 48 divided by 3 if you need to, but I know that yes, it does, and that's 3 times 16. Then I say, oh, does 4 fit into 48 evenly? I know, yes, it does, and that's 4 times 12. Okay? Then I say, oh, does 5, does 5? No. Does 6? Yes, because 6 times 8 gets me 48. Does 7? No. And then we're back at 8, which we have here, so we know that's the most we have. Okay? Then I'm going to go over to 64, and I'm going to say, I know that 1 times 64. Yep, that is. Then I say, does 2 go into 64 evenly? I know that it is, so 2 times 32. Then I know that 3 does not go into 64 evenly. And then I get to 4, and I know, yeah, 4 times 16 gets me 64. Okay? And then I go down again, and I say, does 5? No. Does 6? No. Does 7? No. Does 8? And here, 8 times 8 does. So what you can do is you don't have to put 8 times 8. If you want to, you can. But just 8 would suffice as well. Okay, I will keep it there if you would like. Does 9? No. Does 10? No. And you would keep going, and you'd realize that there are no more factors, okay? Then what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and circle. So I know my 1 is in common, 1. I know I have 2 in common, 2. Do I have 3? No. 4? Yes. 5? No. 6? No. 7? No. 8? Yes. 9? No. 10? 11? 12? No. 16? Yes. 24? No. 32? No. 64? No. And no 48. So here, your GCF is 16. Okay? So what I want you to do is I want you to pause this video and go ahead and do number 10 on your own. There's going to be a lot here, so you may have to write small. Okay, pause the video. When you're done, come back and see if your answer is right. Okay, now that you have completed it on your own, you can come and check. So I'm going to put my numbers at top, so 126 and 328. And then I know, I'm going to go ahead and list the factors, okay, because you did this one on your own, so you should just be checking. 1 times 126, 2 times 63, 3 times 42, 6 times 21, 7 times 18, and 9 times 14. So all those are all the factors of 126. Then I'm going to do the other side, and 1 times 328, 2 times 164, 4 times 82, and 8 times 41. Okay? Then you're going to go ahead and find your common factors, okay? So, we are going to, give me 1 minute. Excuse me. Go ahead and circle 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, no. 4, no. I think that's it. I think that is it. So our greatest common factor is 2, because that's the biggest number. So you could put a 2 here. Okay, so that is your answer for number 10. Now we're going to do something a little bit different. Now we're going to look at GCF when we have variables. Remember, a variable is a term, is like a letter. So X is a variable, Y is a variable. Anything we use, any letter in math is called a variable. Okay, so what you're going to do here, you're going to do the same thing for the number. Okay, so we have 8x squared, and then I'm going to write that in black. It's easier for you guys to see. 8x squared and 14x. Okay, So now what I want you to do is still write the numbers, okay? I'm gonna make that 8 look a little bit better. Sorry, guys. Okay, so I know that 1 and 8 is a factor, and I know that 2 and 4 is a factor. Now, what's important to realize is now we have x's, okay? What I want you to do, see how we have x squared? I want you to write as many x's as the exponent. So in this case, we have 2 x's, 1, 2, okay? Now I'm going to go to the other side, and I'm going to say 1 and 14, same thing, you're listing your numbers, and 2 and 7, right? Because that's all that fits. Then we have 1x, okay? So what I want you to do is I want you to just write 1x, okay? Then I want you to go through and list what we have in common. We have 1 and 1 in common. We have 2 and 2 in common. And we also have just 1 x in common. So what I want you to do is write an x, okay? Now, this is a little bit different. So you're going to take your greatest common factor, your number, but you also this time need to add the x, okay? Because we have variables. So now the x is included. So my greatest common factor here would be 2x, okay? We're going to do more examples to get the hang of this one. Okay, so my greatest common factor is 2x. All right, so now we're going to do 45x cubed and 15x. So like always, write your numbers up here. And 15x. I know that 1 times 45 gets me 45. I know that 3 times 15 gets me 45. And I also know that 5 times 9 gets me 45. But now I have x cubed, so x to the third. So remember what I told you. We are going to write as many x's as the exponent. So we are writing 3 x's this time because it's x to the third. Okay? Then I'm going to come to my other side. I know 1 and 15. And I know that 3 and 5. Don't forget, we have 1x. So I'm going to come write an x down here. Now I'm going to go ahead and circle all my numbers that are like terms. So 1, 3, 5, 15, and 1x on each side. Okay? Now, the greatest number in this middle row is 15. And don't forget, we have to keep our x. Okay? So here, my greatest common factor is 15x. Okay? All right, now I'm going to go ahead and do 13. And then you're going to do the next 2 on your own. Or you're going to try and do the next 2 on your own. Okay? So on top, I want you to write 6x to the 5th. And then 36x to the 4th. Then you're going to come down and do the same thing. So 1 and 6, always 1 times the number, and 2 and 3. But now we have x to the 5th. So now in my circle, I'm going to write 5 x's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then I'm going to come to the other side. Okay? I always know that 1 and 36 multiply, right? We know that 2 and 18. We know that 3 and 12. And we know 9 and 4. But we're also missing one. Oop, let me write that the other way. 4 and 9. And then 6 times 6. Okay? Remember, if you don't want to write both 6s, you don't have to. It's just 1 because it multiplies to itself. Okay? But I gotta get some room because we still have x times x times x times x because we have x to the 4th here. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and circle. I have 1 in common. I have 2 in common. I have 3 in common. And I have 6 in common. But I can't forget my x's. So how many x's do I have in common on this one? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to put 4 x's here. I'm going to circle them because they both have 4 x's. And then what I'm going to write is x to the 4th. Okay? Then I'm going to pick my highest common factor, in this case, which is 6. But I also need to include that x to the 4th. Okay? Then I'm going to come up here, and my answer is going to be 6x to the 4th. Sound good? All right, so pause this video and go try 14 on your own. All right, now that you've already done that on your own, I'm going to go ahead and go over it. Okay, so I'm going to write up on top 7x to the 8th. Oh, 72. 72x to the 8th and 36x to the 4th. Okay, now we've already done the factors of 72 on the last page, so I'm just going to run through them quick. Okay, so we have 1 and 72, 2 and 36, 3 and 24, 4 and 18, 6 and 12, and 8 and 9. Can't forget, we have 8 x's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, then we're going to do the other one. This is the same thing, right? So I'm just going to copy it down. 1 and 36, 2 and 18, 3 and 12, 4 and 9, 6 and 6, and 4 x's. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm going to go ahead and circle. Okay, so I have 1's in common. I have 2's in common. I have 3's in common. 4 in common. 6 in common. 9 in common. 12 in common. 18 in common. I'm going to have to keep going down here. And lastly, 36 in common. And then we have 4 x's in common. So I'm going to write x to the 4th. Now, when we write it this way, it's much easier because you could just see that this is the greatest common factor, which is 36, but also x to the 4th. So you can go ahead and write 36x to the 4th. Okay? Breaking it down like that is very important. Okay? I'm going to wait on the challenge, and then we can go back to that, but I want to go on to the next page. Okay? So here is a different way that we're going to look at factoring out the greatest common factor, okay? So we need to factor this out. When we have terms that are, in x squared, 10x squared plus 7, or whatever that may be, there is a way to factor it out, okay? So the first thing you're just going to do is just to distribute these, okay? This is just a little bit of a practice. So 8 times 2x is 16x, and 8 times negative 9 is negative 72. Okay, same thing here. 3x times 2x cubed is 6x to the 4th. Remember, you need to add your exponents, okay? Then we have 3x times negative 5x, which gives me negative 15x squared. And then lastly, 3x times positive 9, which gives me a positive 27x. Now, what's important to realize is that 8 and that 3x are greatest common factors of each of our answers. So when we did this and when we did this, what we did was we were multiplying our greatest common factor back into the problem. Okay, so now we're going to have to fill in the blank. Okay, so now our greatest common factor was already taken out. So in this case, my greatest common factor was 5x squared. What we need to do is see how many times 5x, or what's left of 10x cubed that needs to go into that blank. So we know in order to get 10, we need to multiply 5 by 2. So we know that we could already put a 2 there. Now they have an x cubed here, okay? We have an x squared on this side. We know that in order to get x cubed, we need to multiply x squared times x. So I am just going to put an x here, okay? So that's how we're going to do that side. Now, we need to go ahead and do the plus, which is this term, okay? In order to get 25x, we need to multiply 5 by 5, right? And here, we have an x squared and an x squared. So we don't need to put an x here because we already have it. Okay, so that's how we're going to fill in the blanks. Okay? Now, what I'm going to do the next one with you, okay? I want you to go ahead and maybe pause it and try it on your own and then come back. All right? But we have, so go ahead and pause and come back when you're done. Okay, now that you're done, we're going to go over the next one. So, in order to get 21, we know that we need to multiply y times, or 7 times 3 in order to get that 21. But now we realize we only have y cubed out here. On this side, it says y to the 5th. So in order to get y to the 5th, we know that we have already y cubed, so I need to multiply y cubed by y squared in order to get y to the 5th. Okay? Then we're going to go ahead and do the next one. Okay? So, we are now looking at the next term, so 49. And what do we need to multiply to 7 to get to 49? We know that 7 times 7 gets me 49. Now in this case, we already have y cubed out here, so we don't need to write anything else because we don't need any more y exponents. Okay? So that's how we're going to do that. All right? So what you can do for this next one is you're going to find the outside and you're going to find the inside. Okay? So what we just did here is called undistributing. We distributed in this top part, and all we did was undistribute in these last two. So for the next example, what you're going to do is you're going to find the greatest common factor, and that is the term that you are going to put outside on this line right here. Okay? So if you want to use your Venn diagram, you are more than welcome to. You are just going to have to draw it on your own, okay, like I did so here. Okay? So, in example 1, we have 4x squared, which would go on one side, and 2x, which would go on the other. Okay? So, what we're going to do is pull out, so we know that 1 and 4 go together, and we know that 2 and 2 get 4. We also have 2 x's here because it says x squared. Then on this side we have 2x, and we only know that 1 and 2, and we only have 1x. I'm going to circle, 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 circle. We both have 1, they both have 2, and they both have an x. Okay? Now, what's left is 2x. Okay? So that can go here. Now, when we're working with expressions, so this is an expression where we're working with expressions, what I want you to do after you find the GCF is I want you to square each pair that we took the GCF out of, okay? So we took one out of there, and we took one out of here, okay? We also took out of here, and we took out of here. Now that we have the boxes squared, what I want you to do is write what is not circled that was left in the boxes. So in this case, this 2 was not circled, and this x was not circled. So what I want you to do on the first line is take those two terms, put them together, and write 2x. Now, on this side, there was nothing left that we didn't circle, so all I want you to do is write 1. Okay? We didn't take anything out of there, so I want you to write 1. All right, so that's how we are gonna do those. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and draw another circle for the next one, and we'll do the next one together. Okay, so circle, circle, 2x, and an 8. Okay, so on 2x we have 1 and 2, and then we have an x. Then on this side we have 1 and 8, and 2 and 4. Now what I want you to do is I want you to find the greatest common factor. So I circle my 1, and then I circle my 2. Okay? And then what I want you to do is go ahead and square. Well, now I know that my greatest common factor is 2. So I'm going to go up to this line, and I'm going to write in a 2, because that's my greatest common factor. Okay? Then what I want you to do is go ahead and box what you took out of. Okay? And box what you took out of. Now, here's what's important. Anytime you have an x, even if you don't take anything out of it, you have to write it down. So here we had just one single x and nothing was taken out of it. You still have to write that down. Then I'm gonna come look on this side, and I noticed that I had a 4 that I did not circle. Okay, I had a 4, so that's what needs to go on my next line. Okay, and that's supposed to be a plus. All right, so that's how we're gonna do those. So I'm gonna come over here. I'm gonna move, I'm gonna move this over a little bit so we can do example 3 together. Okay, so my circles, then I have 6x to the 5th and 36x to the 4th, okay? Now you're gonna do the same thing. So you're gonna write your terms down. So I know 1 and 6 and 2 and 3, and then I have 5 x's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? Then I'm gonna go ahead and go on to the other side with 36. Now here we have a few of them, right? Remember? So I have 1 and 36. Okay? I have 2 and 18. I have 3 and 12. Then I have 4 and 9 and 6 and 6. And then I have 4 x's. Sorry, I can't fit them, but you guys get the point, okay? And then I'm gonna go ahead and circle my terms that are alike, okay? So 1 and 1, 2 and 2, 3 and 3, and then 6 and 6, okay? Now, and then I also have 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm gonna put x to the 4th. So now over here, we're gonna do the same thing. You're gonna keep your lines. Okay, and remember, I did this wrong. Okay, so super important to make sure you keep your negatives, okay? Keep my negatives. Okay, so what we're gonna do is now what we talked about. I'm going to square my greatest common factor. So in the middle is 6x to the 4th. And then what I need to do, like I said again, where you take your greatest common factor out. So in this case, my greatest common factor was 6 and my x's. Okay, 6 and my x's. And now whatever is left in this box and in this box is what you're gonna be writing, okay? So in here, there's no number left. So we could just keep it as 1. And in here, we have an x left. So we need to write down the x. Okay? Then we come to the other side. In this box, there's a 6 left. So I'm going to write down 6. And in this box, there's nothing left. So I just keep it as so. Okay? So this would be your final answer. Okay? All right, now I'm gonna do number 4 with you, and then you're gonna try and do 5 and 6 on your own, okay? So I'm gonna come over here. Now we have 3 here. Now, so what you can do is you could write 10x squared, negative 20x, and 30. So you can just list them, okay? So now what I want you to do is go ahead and list your terms. So I know it's 1 and 10, 2 and 5, and x and x. Then I'm going to have, let's do, well, here is a little different. So we have 1, -1 and 20, 1 and -20. We have 2 and -2 and 10, and 2 and 10, and -10. And then we have, I don't know why that happens. And then we have 4 and -5, and then -4 and +5. Okay, so we need to make sure we're flipping. Okay, because those are all the possibilities when we have a negative number. Then you're going to come up and do 30. So this is a positive 30. So it's 1 and 30, and 2 and 15, and 3 and 10, and 5 and 6. Okay? So, oh, and I forgot on my x is an x. On my 20 is an x. So now what I want you to do is go ahead and circle those common factors. I don't know if I can, I don't know why this is happening. But I'm going to write it on top, okay? I don't know, it's not moving the right way. So I'm going to circle. I have a +1, a +1, a +1. And then I have a +2, a +2, a +2. Then I have a +5, a +5, a +5. And then I have a +10, a +10, and a +10. Then in this one, I have an x and an x. Okay? But they're not in all of them. So I don't have to circle those. Okay? So when I look here, I notice that 10 is the greatest common factor in all of those. So what's going to happen is you're going to have 10, and then I'm going to make lines for you. Okay? So we're doing number 4. This is number 4. I have 10, 10, and 10. So that's going to come on the outside because that's my GCF. Now what I need to do is I need to box each term, each pair that I took out of. Okay? I took out of this one, and I took out of this one. Okay? So those are going to give me my numbers. Now remember, I told you, this is super important to remember, no matter what, you always have to box the x's, even if you did not take anything out of it. Okay? So in this case, we use 10, so what's left is, I'll use yellow. What's left is 1 and 2 x's, which makes x squared. So up here, I'm going to come write 1x squared. Then I'm going to work with my next one. And I have a -2 left and an x. So up here, I'm going to write, I already put the negative there, but I'm going to write -2x. Okay? Then in this last one, the one that I boxed, I have a 3 left. So in that last term, I just need to put a 3. Okay? So that's us factoring out the greatest common factor. All right? Okay. Now we're going to go on. I don't know why I can't do this. But I'm going to go ahead and do number 5. Okay. I'm going to have to come up here and leave that there. I'm not sure why that's not moving for me. But we're going to do number 5 down here. Okay. So number 5 says x to the 4th, 5x cubed, and 10x squared. So what you can do, same thing. You just draw it in a line. This is, we're just not using the circles this time, okay? So in x to the 4th, we don't have any numbers, okay? So we could put 1 times 1 and 1, but we don't have to. So all you're going to put is x times x times x times x. So we have 4 x's there, okay? The next one, we have a number, so we have to put 1 and 5 because those are the only 2 factors of 5. But then we need to break down the x third. 1, 2, 3. Okay? Then we're going to come over to 10x, okay, squared. 1 and 10, and 2 and 5. And we have 1 and 2 left. 2 x's, okay? Now, this is important because this one doesn't have a number, so no number is being taken out. The thing that they all do share, though, is 2 x's. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So I know that out of this expression, I could take an x squared out. Okay? Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over and I'm going to box every term that I took out. Okay? Everything that I took out. And I guess we can say that we're going to have to say that we took a 1 out also. Okay? So we could say 1x squared if you would like. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to box everything that I took out of. I took out of this and I took out of this. Okay? Then I'm going to go ahead and check. So I still have 2 x's left. So that's what needs to go in my line, x squared. Then out of the next one, I took out of this box and I took out of this box, but I have a 5 left and an x left. So I'm going to come up here and write plus 5x. Okay? And then in the last one, I took out of this box and this box. The top box is the only thing that's left, okay? I already took my x's, so I don't have to worry about this box. So all that's left is plus 10. Okay? That's how we are going to be doing these. I know it's a little bit confusing, but we are going to work on it. Okay? And then the last one that we have is example number 6. I'm going to do it up here. Okay? I have 3x cubed plus 27x. I don't have enough room. We're not going to worry about this one, okay, because I don't have enough room. And I think you guys get the point, okay? So what I want you to do is, that's it. So it's a very long lesson. Sorry, I'm not sure what's going on here. Okay? I'm not sure what's happening there. But that's a very long lesson. I know you took a lot in, okay? So I am very proud of you guys. And that's where we are going to stop for the day, okay?